Welcome, thousands. This is SNHell, and this Saturday night in SNHell, it's me, Keith, and my good buddy Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
At the end of every show, we go through into our star of the night. So this is our sort of star of the season. And as we do each one, I'd love to chat about each performer and how their year went.
I'll do my best.
For those who are into the lore and believe the lore is gospel, you're going to be a little disappointed with Matt and I think. And I should mention, too, that basically there were 22 episodes. It is possible to get 3 votes every episode. So perfect game would be 66 points, I guess, or 66 MVPs, which I don't think anyone will ever. I shouldn't say that before Eddie Murphy's year, but it's virtually impossible to run the table. Let's start with it's almost like an honorable mention of sorts. It's the other category, people who are not cast members, people who win Star of the Night but aren't not ready for primetime players. And,
Nice, yeah.
Usually hosts, but Don Pardo has one. Scred had one, which is actually really not Scred.
Who did that?
D. So it's usually hosts, and this year it is all hosts, I believe. So Lily Tomlin actually got 2.
I believe that.
Steve Martin has 1, Paul Simon has 1, and Eric Idle has 1.
So to speak briefly of Lily Tomlin, I did not discover Lily Tomlin until later in life. So going back to see her 70s success was, it was unfound treasure for me, and I loved it. Who the fuck picked Paul Simon? Was that you?
No, it was Chili.
God damn it, Chili.
Well, no, and he wasn't wrong based on his reaction to that Paul Simon Thanksgiving episode. That was a really good performance by Simon. I know you're not a fan, but the stuff with the turkey costume and all that stuff, he did a really good episode.
I was just going to say, yeah, he did. And let me walk it back. He did more than the music. Yeah. And you know what? I thought Paul Simon had pretty good comedic timing when he was talking to Lauren at the top of that episode. And yeah, he did the turkey costume and hated it. Yeah. There was something to be said for Paul Simon there, even though I think he is a boring musician.
All right, so bottom of the pack this year, and this one kind of makes sense, with only 1 MVP, Chevy Chase, who was really only with us for 4 episodes. So Chevy had, he's gone to greener pastures. I gotta say, one of the best things about this season was how they handled Chevy's departure. They really weaned us off Chevy, and still he snuck in every now and then, right up till the last episode of the season. So Chevy gets 1.
They did do it well. I popped for his cameos. Yeah. I distinctly remember when I would see him just when he was in the audience for a Chiron or something like used to be on the show, I think it said. I always got a kick out of him. And I honestly, Chevy's got a bad rep. I think it shows a bit of a sense of humor on his part, too.
Our second lowest, or I guess in 7th place, removing the others, in 7th place is Bill Murray, who joined us late, got off to a bit of a rocky start, but really came into his own by the end.
Yeah, it just didn't really have a lot of material, so an understandable low ranking, I think, because, he didn't have the time. I mean, he has admitted so himself, has he not?
Yeah. I mean, some folks say that he really didn't come into his own till the shower mic sketch, which is the last episode of the season.
I would agree. I remember that sketch, and it was star-making, in my opinion.
I think he hit it earlier, but I can totally see, if you think of the time, too, people were missing Chevy more than we are. Like, we know this show as a revolving door. At the time, they certainly didn't, because, and anyone that says they did is quite amazing, because even Lauren didn't know that. They didn't know how that was going to evolve into a place where people hung their hats for a few years and then took off, right?
That's true. You're absolutely right.
So when Chevy left, it was just like, Steve Carell leaving The Office at the time.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
In 6th place with 2 MVPs, Garrett Morris.
Again, not surprising. I think that he comes out and he's always great in his business. What a wonderful voice. I had no idea he was such a singer. Very underutilized. But, based on what we know in hindsight and conversations and his own admissions, just not, maybe not all in the moment sometimes, maybe not. You know what, as you mentioned as well, a lot older than the other cast members, correct?
Oh, very, yeah. He was 38.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I get that. I'm out here, when I do my shitty act out on the town, most of the comedians are in their 20s.
Yeah.
and I don't talk to them.
Yeah.
So I get it a little bit. And you know what? I don't get used as much as some of the other comedians in their 20s that, in my humble opinion, aren't as funny as I am, but whatever. Sometimes it's who you know. And I think Garrett is a victim of both his personal issues and a who you know ism. So literally from personal experience, I can say that if you are 40 and the booker is 25, you will not get booked as much as the people who will. And I think Garrett is, I read there was that excellent interview. You linked me once an interview with Garrett Morris that I loved. I don't know if it was in the Hollywood Reporter maybe, but holy shit, it was good. And it was just revealing. And he pulled no punches with regards to his own failings and the fact that he wasn't out there to be kissing young ass.
Garrett was a 38-year-old black man from the South. He wasn't a writer. He was a writer, but they fired him from writing. And his material was being written by nobody who fit any of his demographics beyond being a human being. And it wasn't a time where people would even consider trying to make an effort.
Yes.
Or asking Garrett for input. These were allegedly liberal hippie do-gooders who ostracized the man. And he had his own personal demons. And they got stronger as he was on a show where they were treating him like shit and weren't using him enough. He's also admitted to just making no effort to be social with anyone. But again, for us to blame it purely on age, which we have alluded otherwise. But Phil Hartman was, significantly older than the rest of the cast. He didn't have those problems.
And I'm willing, I think that's a fair assessment. And I think I relate a little too much to Garrett's age issue. I feel like I live that a little bit because I don't give a shit what some 25-year-old booker thinks of my act. I think that I tap into that with Garrett a little too personally, so I can't see the forest for the trees. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there was North and South. There was black and white. There was 38 and 25 or whatever. There's a lot at play, and Garrett himself admits to his own shortcomings. But I would counter that, and I'm not going to name names, but I would counter that with almost everyone on that show had some demons. There was drugs flowing freely there. The strength of said substances was different. You can certainly do different things on marijuana than you can on, crack cocaine or whatever.
Yeah, I do this show on marijuana. You imagine me trying to do this show on crack cocaine? Holy shit, bro.
We'll be setting up a Patreon account where you can hear Matt. So, I've looked at Garrett and I've always seen an immense amount of talent that isn't used properly. Were I in his shoes, I can't even imagine. Jane talks about it. Everyone treated him like shit. And he just did it because he wanted to make the money and then go on and do something else. And Garrett isn't the first to do that, and he's not the last to do that on this show or in various forms of entertainment, in almost every form of entertainment.
Well, no. I can tell you right now, if you want to pay me some money, I'll go eat some shit.
I've really enjoyed 99% of what Garrett has done, which is a shame because he's given a lot of shit on the side, other stuff that's just not, there's waiters, there's butlers, there's, any random black guy. Case in point is Roots 2. Yeah. Roots, there is no reason why all those Roots sketches were shit other than the wrong voices were writing them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I always like to take, whenever we talk about Garrett specifically, I do like to mention that my first exposure and how I knew Garrett for years was as Chocolate Chip Charlie and the Michael Moriarty feature film of The Stuff.
And he's getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame next year.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Finishing in 5th this year. Get ready to duck some attacks here is John Belushi. John Belushi only got 3 this year.
That's all he deserves. He doesn't have any range. He does this. He's one of these people, like, God bless Gilda, but she and John are really, and I'm not saying it's their fault. They're not running the show. They're performers and they're helping write, but these are two that just beat their shit to death. And Gilda just at least does it with a little more grace. But yeah, I can't. There's so much, and Belushi just seems to play this same type of character so often. You know what? I don't need to babble. I've already said it. I feel like he lacks range, and this is a deserved spot.
When he is on and doing something different, it has worked usually. Or in some cases it hasn't worked as like the Conehead Supreme Leader. Belushi's a tough one for me because even the stuff I like, I can recognize as not usually my style of humor. And I think like with Belushi too, there is a lot of aura. Some deserved, some not. I love him in Animal House. I really do. If Animal House and Blues Brothers were the only things I ever saw of Belushi, along with his highlight reels, I'd love the guy. But again, seeing him week to week can be a bit much for me.
Yep, absolutely agree. And I mean, I've said it. I have no problem saying it now because I've said it on several episodes. I fucking can't stand the Blues Brothers.
Yeah. In fourth place, with 9 choices, with 5 Star of the Nights, is Gilda. This one is even more controversial than John Belushi. Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, I think I already summed it up in Belushi's. She beats her characters to death, whether it, with Latella and Barbara, whether it's, her or the writers, or I don't give a shit who it is. She's out there and she's doing the same shtick too much. And yes, Gilda is capable of so much more. And, every once in a while we see a glimpse of that and it's wonderful. And she's obviously so savvy and just so good at what she does that it's painful to watch her beat dead jokes because she's so much better than that.
With Belushi, a lot of the time for me, it's like, I don't get it. With Gilda, seeing her bring out Baba Wawa again or Emily Latella again, although we have softened on Emily, there's a little bit of, there's more disappointment there because there's great stuff from Gilda in.
Not knowing the politics or the dynamics, I wouldn't fault her, but also, I don't have to enjoy it.
No, it's easy. It's like the cheerleaders, the Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry cheerleaders. It's easier to just take something that's already there and put it in a new setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But with Baba Wawa, they don't even do that.
And we softened on Emily Latella because they started doing different things with the character.
I find you can get away with repetition for political impressions a bit more than you can with characters. And unfortunately, Baba Wawa kills it. Emily Latella really hurt her for us because we were just sick of it and not anymore. But we've got some of Gilda's better stuff coming up.
I've mentioned this, I'm sure, on an episode as well, but my mom used to be nuts about this character that I've always heard about called Rosanna. And I haven't seen it. It's more 2 years in and I'm still waiting for this. So I know that, and her bits with Bill Murray, I know are going to be a big hit. So yeah, I know there's more and better things to come.
Yeah. And Gilda again, she has probably the best of cassette. I say cassette, but best of special now. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I can watch one Emily Latella a year.
Absolutely.
One Baba Wawa. And some of that is just that we're watching it week to week. And I know I'm on a few sites and stuff, and Gilda's name is always listed when people say, who's your favorite? The truth is, I wonder how many are going week to week or how many are living through memory, And how has her young passing affected that? Same with Belushi,
The show is a public service.
So going from disappointment is our next one, number 3. What's the appointment, I guess? Pleasantly surprised. I'm really blown away by this person. I think it's a friggin' shame that this name isn't on everybody's lips when you say who is one of your favorites, and it's Lorraine Newman.
Such versatility, and especially coming from Belushi, who I really felt had so little. Lorraine is one of those people. I feel like she can go out there and do anything. She can really disappear into things, goofy things, serious things. She's got voices. She has such range in her face that she puts on a wig, and I can completely forget that she is who she is. She can really lose herself in a character, I think, more than any other cast member.
Yeah, and I've been accused of being too big on Lorraine, and I don't even see how you can be, because she's quite talented, quite diverse. And again, I think I mentioned this last year, but so often they say, "Oh, Lorraine was the sexy one." That is so undermining to the work she actually did on this show. Amazing with voices, and yeah, chameleon for looks. I remember the Shelley Duvall episode. Half the time I thought Shelley's character was Lorraine until a close-up came. What I really like about Lorraine is her almost unwillingness, and I think there was an unwillingness to just keep dragging out characters other than Connie Conehead and a few like Rosalind Carter. Lorraine isn't beating any dead horses, isn't beating any living horses. She's got her things and she does it really well. And again, it's and I think she said it, there's the anonymity problem. If you're anonymous and not obviously Lorraine, as you can see with Gilda or Belushi, you can get lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely. And I definitely get it. And, maybe it cost her some fame. Maybe it cost her a few bucks. And maybe, I'm not saying that her artistic credibility on the podcast of a couple of dudes means anything, but, I'm sure that there are definitely people that respect the work, and I'll respect the work. And Belushi doing a samurai bit again and again and again, doing Cocker again and again and again. There's, I don't respect that work.
The sad part is she doesn't have there's no best of. She's never been asked back to host. She did come back for the 40th anniversary, which was great to see. But she's been lost to the ether in a sort of way, like, almost like Garrett too, and Jane. Let's not be, these are people that I said it before. I don't think it should be Gilda, Lorraine, and Jane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I brought her name up. Number 2 is, I hope you're okay with this, Matt, that she didn't win number 1. But our number 2 tonight is Jane Curtin. And Jane has gotten 17 best ofs. Tell me about Jane.
Jane Curtin, number 1 in my heart, has owned Weekend Update this season. She, Chevy can't handle the bad jokes. He can't roll with the punches like Jane can. She can roll with any punches. She turns, her professionalism, her charisma, she turns those dead Weekend Update jokes into chuckles. And that might not seem like a big deal, but those are only chuckles because of her. And those chuckles make a huge difference on your emotional impact of the show. And she has gone from season 1 being like the straight woman to getting to be in that weird sketch with the Navy wedding. And how cross she is with Emily Latella, I just love. And Jane as the Conehead is remarkable. She gets to just do something so different for her, and she does it so well. She doesn't fail. She's out there, and this is why Jane, if these were my rankings, Jane would be my number 1 if they were not cumulative, because Jane goes out there and every time she succeeds. She doesn't, when she flubs a line, she doesn't let it sink the sketch. Yeah, she doesn't have the wacky characters. She's not going all over the place with the voices, but there is something to be said for subtlety. Mm-hmm. And Jane's work in subtlety over the course of season 2 especially has been a masterclass. I think she has been my favorite cast member of the season, definitely, because she doesn't...
Stats will back that up. You did like Jane more than anyone else.
She's just it, because everything she's in, she masters. And I cannot say that about any other cast member, including our number 1.
Because she's so good at the straight man and we forget, or the straight woman, she just really knocks your socks off when she goes and gets wacky, Because she's never wacky. And then suddenly she's absolutely off the charts.
Absolutely. It lands. And, if everything is urgent, nothing is urgent. If everything is crazy, nothing is crazy. there is an art of subtlety, and she owns it.
Number one, second year in a row. No surprise to anyone who's been following along. Should be no surprise to anyone who's actually watched the show over the period. But Dan Aykroyd, 23 out of a possible 66. That's an impressive showing for anyone. But Aykroyd was the big star, I think, across the board. Matt, you had Jane first, but Aykroyd was a close second.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. You can't argue with talent, and he goes out there and he's so over the top when he has to be. But he can blend in when he has to. But not that I'm struggling to think of a moment where Dan had to blend in. But yeah, I mean, his characters, his pitchmen, his commercials, the AM, FM radio DJ, he's got so much going for him. He's so talented. He's stupid talented in this era. He's absolutely at some sort of weird comedy prime. And yeah, I do think Jane is overall the better cast member and I only say that because not everything Dan does is a hit. But I also think that Dan suffers slightly from overexposure sometimes. And I think some of those Nixon things are way too long. Yeah, and I know he does a good Nixon, and that's fine. Go out and do your funny Nixon, but that, I don't know, it just drags things down for me. And that's why I would personally select Jane over Dan, because she just doesn't have those moments. Or, if we were scientifically measuring loudest laugh, I'm sure Dan is going to get my victory.
Happy with that ranking? All the rankings? Dan, Jane, Lorraine, Gilda, John, Garrett, Murray, and then Chase.
Yeah, it makes sense based on our 3 chairs this season. I am not surprised.
Yep, I think so as well. So thank you very much, and we're having lots of fun listing things here in SNHell.